Hello guys, so the first thing that we are going to talk about today is completing the square. The equation that you have on your paper is x squared minus 10x minus 9 equals 7. So what I first want to remind you that you're going to do is you want to get your x's on one side, that's your ax squared minus bx on one side, and you want to get all of your numbers on the other. So as you can see, I added 9 on both sides, and from there, remember, part of the trick is that we want to add those spaces in on both sides. So once we have those spaces, that's our visual reminder that we need to add whatever you do to one side, you have to add over to the other. So in order for us to figure out what goes in those spaces, we need to take our b term, which in this case is negative 10. We need to divide that by 2, and we need to square it. So again, that's your b term divided by 2 and squared. And that comes out to be 25. So you'll see that I have 25 written in both of those spaces. Once we have done our b over 2 squared and added that to both sides, we want to factor that equation that we have left. If you do this right, your factor should come out to be exactly the same thing. In this case, it's x minus 5 times x minus 5. And remember in class, I gave you guys the hint that that number that you are factoring is your b term divided by 2. So that's where we get our negative 10 over 2 is negative 5, which was what we put into our factor. Also, because negative 5 times negative 5 multiplies to be 25, it also adds to be negative 10. So we're factoring this. Once we see that we have both of those factors that are exactly the same, we can write them as x minus 5 squared. They are the same factor. That's what squaring something means. It means multiplying it by itself, which is still equal to 41. If you like to do your t-chart, go ahead, set up your t-chart. What's happening to x is that it is being, or minus 5, then it's being squared, it's equal to 41, and you want to undo those, do the reverse to undo that. For the rest of us, we're going to write it in our equation. We're going to square root that 41. That's what gets rid of a square. Don't forget, because you put the square root in the problem, it's a plus or minus. And then our very last step to get x by itself is to add that 5 over to the other side. Now at this point, we are done because 41 does not break down, but you do need to remember that you have to check that square root to see if that number inside the square root would break down.